afternoon and welcome everybody into Two-Man Game here on ClavesOnline.com. Alongside Bob Ramsey, I'm Matthew Rocchio, and we're here to talk a little Billikens basketball. And no one better to do it with than the head coach doing today, sir.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Appreciate you guys having me on. It's a pleasure, and literally just walked out of practice. So I've been looking forward to talking with you guys. I really do appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, Coach. Thank you so much for giving us some time, and obviously a rare open weekend for you, so we don't want to take too much of your time, but usually on this show we get a little nerdy about basketball, and we thought no one better to dive in to some things about the Billikens than the head coach of the Billikens. So, Travis, really quickly, before we get into anything else, just a great comeback victory this past week over St. Joe's. Obviously a rough start, down by 20 early, but then the offense gets going in the second half. Especially when you look at some of the other games you've had, some of the other comebacks you've had, just what was your message in the second in the locker room before you went into the second half, and how do you think that helped fuel that turnaround?
Yeah, halftimes are used for a lot of stuff. Obviously there's strategic changes you make or whatever you're doing, but then you have your motivational tactics and a lot of different things. The biggest thing I talked about was the difference in the first 10 minutes compared to the second 10 minutes of the first half. Had a lot to do with rebounding 50-50 balls. I thought we did a great job. I thought Bruce Zane gave us a great 7 to 8 minutes at the end of the first half and talked about just the difference in mentality that we played with at the end of the half. And, we talked a lot about, just how hard in the mentality, 50-50 balls, the toughness that we have to play with. And then we made some strategic changes, nothing major, a few minor things on defense. We talked about a couple things we might be able to go to offensively in the second half, where we wanted to get the ball to in the second half. I thought we did a really good job of executing what we talked about, trying to get the ball in the middle of the paint and get in the middle of the zone and different things. And thought we passed the ball as well as we passed the ball all year long. Going back and watching film, we broke it down for our guys. We had a lot of really good passes that led to baskets, but also a lot of the hockey assists that led to baskets. And we haven't been doing a very good job of that at all. And, it's watching the film, we made a lot of simple plays. We didn't make it overly difficult. We didn't have a lot of self-inflicted wounds. Here in the past, we've done a lot to hurt ourselves, whether it be turnovers, whether it be bad shots, whether it be defensive mistakes. We still weren't where we need to be defensively, but our offense, only turning the ball over 7 times and making the passes that we made, gave us a chance to win and gave us a chance to score, the most points we've scored in a long time.
Coach, in that first half, you mentioned the second 10 minutes of the first half. And in the moment, it's hard to see it sometimes, but as you said, you went back and looked at film. Was there a personnel change? Was there a moment grabbing a loose ball? Was there something that you look back and say that kind of got us going?
Yeah, at the beginning I think Bruce Zane. I think you start with him.
Yeah.
He got a couple of tip-ins. He made a nice layup. But I think his energy, he brought us something that sometimes he may not do, and. A lot of times when a guy's giving you energy like that and it's productive energy, it makes everybody else kind of look themselves in the mirror and say, well, I need to get myself going here. But I thought, Kellen Thames played really well in the first half. He got a great offensive rebound, kicked it out to Sion. Sion makes a 3. But I think Bruce Zane's energy kind of started it out for us because Brad as a World did not get off to a great start. He got 2 very quick fouls. As you know, I try not to play guys with 2 fouls, but we dug ourselves a hole and I put him back in. He gets his 3rd foul. So, our back was against the wall. Bruce, bailed us out. We were down 20, cut it to 10 at halftime. That was as big of a swing to help us win the game as anything that we did, because there's a big difference between going down 15 or 20 at halftime and being down 10.
I asked you, let me one more thing about the game, Rocc and Travis, and that I wanted you to talk a little bit about Gibson Jimerson. We saw everybody looked at a box score, saw 24 points in the second half, but you made a point on the radio postgame show about his compete level. Talk about that.
Yeah, we all know what Gibson Jimerson's capable of. We know what we know the type player he is. And it's throughout his career, he's gone through different phases of adding things to his game. This year, it was probably more about leadership than anything. He's got the full game at this point, but now he's gone into a full leadership role into this year, just another phase. And that's not always easy, especially when that hasn't necessarily had to be your thing the previous 3 years. And he's done a great job of really working on being more vocal. But one thing I've talked to him a lot about lately, especially when you're a scorer, and everybody knows you're a scorer. Everybody knows we run plays for you. Everybody knows, we need to get you shots. The best way to go about not putting pressure on yourself is get outside yourself and worry about defense. Worry about, am I rebounding? Worry about leading the other guys. Don't put pressure on yourself to score, because anytime somebody puts pressure on themselves to score, it's very difficult to do. So if you'll just concentrate on little things, it's amazing how the ball goes in. It's amazing how you find yourself in the right place at the right time. And he probably got outside of himself more than any time I've ever seen as far as being so vocal. I said he was an extension of me out there. I mean, he was not just rah, rah, yeah. He was telling guys, block out, let's defend. I mean, he had some almost anger to his voice of, we better do this. And I believe in this. I believe when you do those things, it's amazing how everything else works out. If you become the total team player, and he always has been. I mean, he's, we always know we need him to score, and he's always about the team. But if you just take yourself outside of all that and just worry about your teammate, do all those, it's amazing how everything else works out for you when you're as good as he is.
One of the things you talked about there was the collective passing effort in that St. Joe's game. And that's one of the big things I wanted to ask you about today, because you have 2 new point guards, and obviously you have the last 4 years. How much have you had to shift around the offense, and how has that thought process been, having to shift the offense from a Uri-led offense to passing it off not just to 2 new point guards, but like you said, making it more of a collective effort, getting guys like Kellen Thames involved in the high-low game or Gibson Jimerson in the pick-and-roll game?
Yeah, it's a good point. Teams go through phases, programs go through phases. And what we've had is 1 point guard over the last 4 years. We've had a lot of staples within our program. And this is a totally different team than we've had in several years as far as so many new bodies. And, with 2 new point guards, they're different. Sion's more of a setup type guy, very similar to Uri to an extent. Mike Meadows, I'd put him more. He can do both, more in the scoring mode. He can score for us a little bit. But we really like what both of them bring to our team a whole lot. And we even play them together sometimes. But one thing, we've adjusted, and it's been obvious that we're running a lot more sets. We're running a lot more plays. We're getting a lot more players' touches. Uri obviously deservingly so, and by design, monopolized the ball. The ball was always in his hands. We always wanted to get it back to him. Whether it would be on the break, whether it be immediately off a rebound, give it to him and let's go. One thing we started out doing and what's been difficult is we had a true identity in our first 4 or 5 games. I talked about this the other night. When everybody was healthy, all through preseason, all summer, we worked on an identity, and we called it that. We really wanted to have a true identity, and that identity was pressing for 40 minutes and playing extremely fast. Now, part of playing very up-tempo with this team was we weren't going to just look for the point guard. If you'll remember back, Tim Dowger brought it up a lot.
Yep.
Gibson would bring it up. Sincere would bring it up. We weren't just where last year, and we even noticed it, that it slowed us down a lot, that we always looked for Uri. And that was by design. And his teammates wanted him to have it because they knew they would get it back. But sometimes it's not, you can't run as fast as we wanted to run this year by doing that. So that was a big difference in how we played. That would be in one noticeable way. And then when everybody started getting hurt and we had to change the way we played, it became more about sets. It became about more guys getting more touches, everybody getting a touch, moving the ball around a lot more. So it's, it is a totally different way than we've played over the last several years. And not only that, we've changed the way we've played probably 2 to 3 times this year. Yeah. And that's just based on personnel and who's available.
Do you anticipate maybe a softer landing than maybe you would have in a different season when you're getting a lot of guys back now? You're getting Sincere back. You're getting Dogger back after the game he got at St. Joe's. He's getting more comfortable. Do you anticipate maybe getting back to your original plan will be a little bit easier than maybe the changes you've had to go through this year so far?
Rocky, that's a good question. Yes, we are. Without giving away too much, we do. As long as we can get back everybody, the way they were and healthy, and it's going to take Sincere a little bit of time. It's not going to happen overnight. But you saw a good example. We picked our pace up the other night even. That's something we talked about even at halftime, but we talked about it before the game in preparation that we had planned on picking it up a little bit. There were certain opportunities we call our fast break a strike. We want to strike. Earlier in the year, we want to strike on mades, misses, on everything that we were getting it out and flying it up and down the court. Now, we want to be a little more strategic off long rebounds, off turnovers, different things like that. But as we continue to move forward, and if we can get everybody, where they need to be, no question we'd like to get back to playing that way. But you saw in that game, having more bodies available, what it can mean in the fact that Bruce Zang and Kellen had great first halves and really got us back into the game. They didn't play much second half because you got Tim, who didn't, play as much as the first, came back and gave us a great half. Brad As the World gave us a great second half. That's the luxury of sometimes having a few more players, a few more options. One thing we've had to address to our team is as you start getting players back in, which is always good, but it's difficult because some guys are used to playing certain minutes that maybe that might not be the case anymore. So whoever's playing the best at that particular time is going to play the most minutes, because we got a lot of interchangeable parts and a lot of guys kind of the same type player. Nobody's really said, hey, I'm so much better than everybody. I got to, We got a lot of guys that can play roles. So whoever's playing the best at that particular time, the hardest, the best defense, is giving us the best chance to win in that particular moment. Those are the guys that's going to play. And if it's not you, you can't sit over there and pout. You can't have a bad attitude. Those are the things we've got to watch when you're dealing with the, guys that have been used to playing when everybody else was out.
It's funny about that. A quick aside, we get all the time just talking to people who are fans. Well, why isn't so-and-so playing more minutes? And I go, look, you got all these guys back. You've only got 200 minutes. So I always tell them, divide up the 200 minutes and show me what you got. And then they go, oh, yeah, I didn't think of it. It's just, it's not an
easy to sit somewhere. The other chair, always easy. It's easy to coach from somewhere else. That's the easiest thing to do. I tell so I'm a great coach sitting on my couch. That's yeah.
I'm glad we're not the only ones that happen to. This is a question I've been wanting to ask you for a while, Travis, since I heard the audio. And this was about a year ago. JJ Redick was talking to Kevin Durant kind of about the evolution of basketball, just the X's and O's of basketball in the NBA across the last 30 years. And he compared it to a more lack of evolution in the college game. And, you were playing in the 90s. JJ was playing in the 2000s. And now you're coaching in the 2020s. How have you seen the evolution of the on-court game of college basketball since when you were playing to maybe your Eastern Kentucky days to now at SLU?
Well, to be honest, it hasn't changed much, unfortunately. We haven't kept up with the NBA as far as a lower shot clock, which I would love to have. I think lower shot clock down to 24 would be great. I'm a 4 quarters guy. I would love the game to go to the NBA minutes, 12 minutes a quarter. We practice for so long and for so many, so many days, and you only get to play 33 games, and the game's 20 minutes. I wish they'd make the games maybe even a little bit longer. I don't think, normally in the past, everything trickles down from the NBA, especially more style of play than anything. It all trickles down. But we haven't kept up, I don't think, as far as, adjusting the game to make it, keep it up with the NBA. Now, I love the NBA. So, I'm an old school guy too. I like a lot of stuff about old school. So I'm kind of probably caught in the middle, but I love the NBA. I love studying the NBA. I love watching the NBA. But I think the college game is very similar to still how when I played, from, the 3-point line's been changed. I don't know how many times since I played. It's been changed a couple of times now. It's, kind of set. I think they've kind of got something set for it. We're down to a 30-second shot clock. I think we might have been at 35 when I played. I can't remember that far back. It might have been 30. But not a whole lot's changed. I'm for, strategy. I'm for moving the ball up and, on timeouts. These are all NBA things. That I love those things. I absolutely love those things. But the game hasn't changed much. It hasn't changed. They only change rules every 2 years. Is the only time they change rules. And, sometimes I think they change rules just because they need something to do on that second year. Some of the things you just shake your head on, some of the rule changes they got. But the game hasn't changed a whole lot. I really don't think it's changed a whole lot.
One of the things I think I've noticed, Coach, over the last, decade maybe, propensity to play 4 out and 5 out. And I don't necessarily love that style, but if you've got the athletes, you got to do what will help you win the games. That's the bottom line. Yeah. And that to me is kind of an NBA thing. And I see you play that. You'll run set plays. You'll run fast break. It's like you say, I want to have all this stuff in my arsenal.
Yeah, no, you make a good point, Rammer. I was talking more of rule-wise.
Yeah.
I think the style of plays changed a lot. I think, like the NBA, college is definitely more post-oriented than the NBA is, but we've even got away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fives. We obviously were, TJ was at a 5 for a while shooting threes. You saw a guy the other night, St. Joe's had a 7-footer. He's big, 7 foot, 275, pure, starts the game with a 3. That wasn't being done much at all when I played. Not much at all. You had true 5s, but no different than today. Some teams played fast back then. We played fast at Kentucky when I played. We pressed for 40 minutes my whole career. I mean, 40 minutes every single game, played fast offensively.
And in fairness to JD, the quote, and this is why there should be so much, is one of his big things was he watches and he sees a lot of the same offensive sets. And I wonder has that always just been a practice time thing? The fact that you're bringing in so many players from different basketball backgrounds and you have so much time to mold them. And now with the AAU, I'm sure the skill set is completely different that you're getting in a freshman than it was 10, 15, or even 5 years ago.
You talk about because everybody runs similar sets and a lot of sets and things like that. I go back because 30-second shot clock. Yeah. You got plenty of time to do it. Everything in the NBA is quick hitters, and very quick hitters because you only got 24 seconds. Again, I think you would see the game if it went to 24. And again, I love all the NBA rules about where you can be and where you can't be and all that because it creates more spacing and all those things. But you would see a lot more one-on-one, a lot more talent. The game would be a lot faster, obviously. You would see more skill than you would see a bunch of screening. Now, if you're an old school guy, and I like both, I love both, then, we're running a lot of plays here. It's all about screening, waiting on screens, getting to the second and third option. There's no such thing as second and third option in the NBA. It's maybe it's all about mismatches. How can they create one screen to get a mismatch, and then they play from there? My college coach, Rick Pitino, who obviously coached, in the NBA with the Knicks and the Celtics. I remember a long time ago, even when I played for him, I remember him talking to whoever, but he said there was a whole lot more coaching probably in the NBA than there is college because there's a lot more possessions, maybe. I can't remember exactly why he said that, but he said there's a lot more coaching actually in the NBA than there probably is college. And that may be because of there's so many more possessions in an NBA game based on shot clock, and there's more time. It's not a 40-minute game, it's a 48-minute game. But it's all about matchups in the NBA, and it's all about trying to create a mismatch. That's what they're trying to do.
Yep.
This is my last one, Travis. Thank you so much for your time today again. And then that's just one last just X's and O's offensive question. What when you building that weave at the beginning of some of those sets and some of those plays, is that just creating more space? What is the main goal of that to start off some of those plays?
Well, it started off trying to take as much time in the half court, trying to slow the other team down. That's why we were doing it this year as much, starting with the Drake game when we were down to basically 7 guys.
Yeah.
Where we started the season, we were going to outscore people. All right, we're just going to go out there and try to outscore people. Then I've changed styles of play in the middle of the season for different reasons maybe, but not as drastic as going from trying to outscore people in the 80s to now we're trying to keep this game in the 50s and 60s. And part of that is, all right, let's weave this thing around. That's going to take off a few seconds. Then let's get into our set and make them guard as long as we can. That's solely what that was about. And it's to create what's called false movement, false motion into your stuff. And we can go into our weave or what we've got a name for it, but we can go into a lot of different stuff that we do. But that's basically what that was, is try to just take as much time in the half court and make the defense work, make them move around before we get into what we're wanting to run.
There it is. Travis, thank you so much for your time today. Again, you got an open weekend this weekend. I hope the weather isn't going to ruin that too much, and I hope you have a great time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, guys, very much a pleasure to be on, and appreciate all the support. Appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks a lot.
Travis, I'll see you in Dayton.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
See you later, Coach. You have a great one. So thank you so much for joining us today on the two-man game. SLU basketball back in action, like Rammer said, facing off against Dayton in Ohio, another big A-10 matchup for the St. Louis Billikens. We'll see if maybe Sincere Parker plays a little bit more. By the way, one other quick thing that I wanted to mention, Stu Durando tweeting out, I don't know if you saw this, Gibson Jimerson considering a return to the St. Louis Billikens for one more year, which is just about the best thing you could ever hear if you're a Billikens fan.
I was aware of that kind of talk going back about a month or so. Stu is the journalist. I'm just the yacker on the games. It's not really my job to break news, but I've been aware that that's been supposedly a conversation. We're in January. Let's see how we feel in the middle of March and how tired we are and see. But Jimerson loves it at St. Louis U. And, I always try and say, when somebody says, well, they should have left early, they should have stayed, they should have taken the money, whatever they should have done. What they should have done was make a decision that will make them happy. And if a person follows their happiness or what they hope will make them happy, then things usually work out.
And he looked happy playing on Wednesday night, that's for sure. Like Travis said, there was a couple of times where we saw him kind of scream and yell, and he was trying to do it reservedly, which is only something I could describe Gibson Jimerson doing it all. So it was an incredible game. And again, thank you again for Travis Ford for joining us today. I could pick his brain for a very long time because I love talking about that stuff. And I think the one message we took away from that interview is to shorten the shot clock in college basketball, because then we won't have to see the weave anymore.
I didn't want to get into a debate. I want the brands of basketball completely different.
Okay.
I want separation.
Okay.
I don't want NCAA ball to be the minor leagues of the NBA. I like it different, but I'm losing and I will continue to lose.
There you go, Rammer. Well, we got to head out of here. Before we go, I want to tell everybody to check out Munganess St. Louis Acura. Earlier this month, I actually had a couple problems with my car. It was making a noise that was not good when you were driving down the highway going 65 miles an hour. So I made an appointment at St. Louis Acura, and it was so easy. Just went online, typed in my number. They know who I am there. So, and they know who you are because, I've been there 15 times. So they just type it. You type in your number or your email, however you're in there. It pops up, says, this is all the work you've had. This is what you're due for. What can we help you with? It was so easy. Everything was just the best at St. Louis Acura. I didn't get my car there, but I get my car fixed there. And you can do the same there again. St. Louis Munganess Acura. Rammer, thank you so much for your time today. You have a great rest of your day.
From our roots in St. Louis, Royal Banks of Missouri is branching out to continue serving you with our locations in St. Charles, Jerseyville, Granite City, and now in Hannibal, Center, and New London. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community